Welcome back to Around the Block Volleyball. We are back starting off our NCAA women's coverage, and what better way to start it off by going over the biggest changes for 10 of the top teams in the nation. We got Nebraska, Kentucky, Texas A&M, and a bunch of other teams. You guys will see all of the timestamps in the YouTube bar, the time bar. But before we get started in our coverage, we need to announce that we are back this year with our Creator Fantasy League, and we are revamping it. We got some new people. Some other people are a little bit too busy this season, so this is going to be super fun.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the big returners that we got, Volley Talk, Sarah and Adam are going to be there. We still have Kanan, Minute Volley. There's a lot of really great creators out there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be rekindling it again for Season 2. Yep. Season 2 of the Creator League.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to be able to put out a little bit more coverage about it as well, because we changed up some of the rules, but you guys will see it in that video itself.
And hopefully we do better. If we do better, we'll definitely be talking about it.
Yeah. If we're not at the very bottom of the league, we will definitely be talking about it a little bit more. But now let's just get right into the teams, the NCAA teams, and kind of how their rosters changed up from last year to this upcoming year. And what better way to start than with our national champions, Texas A&M, especially because they lost a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like, so much of this team graduated. It is absolutely insane.
Yeah, the team's going to be looking very, very different with a lot of really great players that ended up graduating, but they still reloaded. They're still going to be looking good.
Yeah, so of course, talking about graduated players, let's go over some of them that have graduated. Of course, we have Logan Lednicki, the right side for that team that, not to say she was everything, but she kind of felt like the heart of that team, and to a lot of people, she was that superstar. One of the other superstars for the team, Afena Kazakpala, of course, she's playing in League One now. Last year, who knows what happened with that, with her pro career. But she was really key to this team. She was one of the best middle blockers in the nation. She's now in League One Houston. Next, we have Maddie Walk joining Logan Lednicki in League One Salt Lake. So that's going to be a very interesting one where they are just losing their starting setter, starting right side, starting middle, and of course another middle where they also lost Morgan Perkins, who's now going to be playing at League One Minnesota. So that's a lot of the starting lineup already missing. Of course, Ava Underwood as well, the libero.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, another starter, Emily Helmuth, the outside hitter, is also graduated. Now, this is just a lot of the team going on. Of course, there are a couple other players. We have Tatum Thomas as one of the DSs, Taylor Humphrey, another one of the outside hitters who subbed in a little bit.
Yeah, still played a good amount,
Yeah.
especially when Kendall Stowers just maybe wasn't there when, she was going through a lot, and now that she was back and healthy, but before that, and sometimes they would still have Taylor Humphrey play. So it's pretty much all the starters that you mentioned, and then you leave Kendall Stowers there. But that is what a great piece to still be able to return back to the program. But of course, shout out to all those players winning that national championship, but it's going to be tough.
And on top of all of that, Lexi Gwynn, who was another one of the outside hitters who didn't get as much playing time, but she did transfer out, so that's another player that, you just have to replace because you've lost so many players, starters, of course, and then even your bench players. But to help bolster the roster, they got a couple transfers. They got Lily Nicholson, a setter who's from Florida State and GCU. Mm-hmm. She was their main setter for this Florida State team, although that team was using a lot of that 6-2 dub sub situation. A big signing for them in the transfer portal was Natalie Ring, who is playing her 5th year here at Texas A&M. She played at Marquette, and she was kind of their star player. It earned her All-American third team last year, and this year she's going to be on the ABCA National Player of the Year watch list. So
yeah. And she was definitely one of those players, if you look back, and I believe this was one of the episodes I did without you, and man, did I become a fan so fast. Just the way that she was playing at Marquette. And of course, I didn't really see her as much, but you saw her play against Louisville. You saw her in that first round as well. She was playing really, really well, so this is a really great pickup.
And to help bolster up the middles, they still signed some more players. They got Kaya Castle from Ohio State. She was kind of one of their outstanding middle blockers. I think just in general for that Ohio State team, she was one of the real bright spots for that team. So it's going to be really nice for this Texas A&M team, especially because I saw her last year as a little bit more offensive minded, so I think that's going to help make up for some of the production that maybe Paula was giving. That's a good pickup for them. And of course, they also have Eliza Sharp in the middle from Boise State to help bolster the roster a little bit more as well. She was one of their top players, and she was Mountain West Freshman of the Year last year.
Yeah, two big pickups to have, and it's really great because you lost your two starting middles to graduation, so you definitely need some help. And this was a really great pickups.
But of course, that was not enough. They do need to pick up some more players. We have a couple freshmen here that are joining Texas A&M. First off, we have Gabby Rodriguez for the libero/DS spot. She's the number 13 overall recruit and number 2 libero in the 2026 class, according to Prep Volleyball. And she was on that U21 FIVB World Championship roster that the U.S. sent this year. So she's going to be really, really good for the team. I think she's probably going to even be the starting libero over some of the returning players. So,
definitely a shot at it.
Yeah, she's going to be really good. They also got Brooke Lacewell, a right side who was the number 106th recruit and number 10 among opposite hitters for Prep Volleyball. To help bolster out those middles, they do have Lolufe Adeji, who has recently joined the USA Volleyball National Training Development Program. So hopefully that's going to bring her some good experience, especially over the summer, and she can hopefully do a little bit for this Texas A&M team who needs a little bit of reinforcements.
Yeah.
To round out the freshmen, we have Jenna Thedford, who is a libero/DS. She's a top 150-ish recruit and a top 25 DS libero, according to Prep Volleyball. So I think she'll be there in case any of them need some DSing, because this is going to be a little bit of a new team, so some of the players might not be used to the roles that they're taking on. So they might need it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a very good freshman class to have. It's only 4, so it's maybe not as many as maybe you'd think, just considering how many they graduated out. But it's still a really great group. I think they can definitely have some impact.
But now we can just talk about some of the players that they are returning and who will be high impact players. Of course, like you mentioned, we have Kendall Stowers, the outside hitter. She was the most outstanding player in the NCAA tournament last year, and for good reason. I think she's definitely going to do great things this year, especially as the returning starter for the team.
Yeah.
Although she is not alone in being a major contributor, as Addie Applegate, who was a major DS for the team last year, she played in almost all of the games. She's going to be returning. She's a sophomore now, and yeah, I think she's going to be an important DS for the team still. Don't think necessarily she's going to be taking that starter libero spot, but she definitely could.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely very open, and she did a really great job with Ava Underwood running that back row, so definitely has a shot at it.
And then on the pins, we have Megan Fitch returning as an outside hitter. She played a little bit in about 64 sets, 65 sets, somewhere around there. And Taryn Morris, who is a pin sophomore, she played in around the same number of games, just a couple less sets than Megan. And to round out the roster, we have a couple players who didn't play as much, but could see a little bit of bigger roles this year, especially with the new roster. We have Kira Musgrove, a setter, who subbed in for 12 of the games last year. Then Durja Stanojevic, who's a middle blocker from Serbia. She played in only 3 games last year, so we have to see what she can contribute this year. Amare Hernandez, an outside hitter. And most importantly, we have Margot Manning, who is a senior setter who had to redshirt last year because of a knee injury. But in previous years, she was a big piece for this Texas A&M team, and I think she's going to come back, take that starting role, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, it's always difficult with these injuries and kind of projecting how they will be able to play, and just based off of health. So, of course, we wish her the best, and, if she is the starter, that'd be great.
And just generally looking at this roster, I mean, they've lost a lot, but they have locked and loaded for a lot of these positions. I think they're probably going to be in that same space as last year, where they weren't necessarily a top tier contender, but I think in our predictions last year, we said they could be a sleeper pick to pop off. I think that's around the same position, except there's probably going to be a bigger learning curve with all of these new players coming in. So I wouldn't rank them too high, but I think that they could still make a little bit of a splash by the time we get to the national tournament.
Yeah, I think it's just very much differs from last year's team just because of the fact that there is not as much returning players, and you had such an experienced team last year. I mean, pretty much the whole team graduated out, so it is going to be a very different look. Jamie Morrison definitely has to figure out ways to make the team play like themselves and not trying to just mirror what they did last year, because, I mean, it's a whole different group, so it's not going to be the same. But you do have Kendall Stowers. I loved what Natalie Ring was able to do. You bring in a lot of talent that has experience as well. It's just being able to make them gel together. But definitely think they can be a good team. I think it's just going to be a little rocky in the beginning.
Yep, but now we can get to one of the more fun things that we're going to be doing this episode. We're going to be predicting or giving our potential starting sevens for each of the teams. So let's start off by saying, who is going to be your starting seven for this Texas A&M team? I think for the starting setter, we have two very, very interesting choices. We have Margot Manning and Lily Nicholson.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough decision, especially with Margot Manning coming back from injury. That's a little bit up in the air, but I don't know which way you lean. I personally lean a little bit towards Margot Manning.
Yeah, I think it makes a little bit of sense for me just because she was already there. She's familiar with Coach Jamie Morrison. I think you can still run an offense quite similar to what you wanted to because she was being able to run that offense before her injury. So I'm definitely looking to see that she might take that starting spot, but of course you can still run a 6-2. It's not like you have a Logan Lednicki that you want her on the court all the time. Lily Nicholson definitely has a shot at it too.
And then for the outsides, this one's fairly easy. Of course, they're going to keep Kendall Stowers, the most outstanding player from the NCAA tournament, and they got Natalie Ring from Marquette, who was one of the best outsides last year, being on that AVCA third team.
Yeah, it's a really great Penn group to have, especially on the outside here. I definitely am looking forward to see kind of what they're able to build on because, yes, they both had really great moments in the tournament last year. I'm just really looking forward to seeing them be able to continue that, build that momentum into this season.
And then for the middles, of course, we're going to have Kaya Castle and Eliza Sharp, who both got brought in from Ohio State and Boise State respectively. And I think they got brought in for a reason. They're going to be the starters for this team, and they're going to have big shoes to fill because of Afena Kozak-Paul and Morgan Perkins, but I think they're going to do a pretty good job going off of what they did last year.
Yeah, I think it really helps that they are experienced players. It's not expecting a freshman to be able to do that, which, hey, if you got a really baller freshman, you can make it work, but it's good to have some experience going into it. So definitely really good pickups.
And then for the right side, I think we're going to have Taryn Morris or potentially Brooke Lacewell coming in on that 6-2. Taryn Morris was already playing and contributing last year. I think she's going to be back. She's going to be taking that right side spot from Logan Lednicki. And Brooke Lacewell also looked like a really good prospect during the spring game. So I think she has a chance of being there for that 6-2 if that 6-2 does happen.
Yeah, I think that is definitely still an option for them. We'll have to see. Definitely going to be a competition, though.
And then for the libero, I picked Gabby Rodriguez. Of course, she was playing with the U21 team this summer, and I think she was showing out, making a name for herself, and she's going to do even more of that at Texas A&M this year.
Yeah, this is definitely going to be a battle at the libero spot. I do think Gabby Rodriguez will win that. She's just a great, talented player. But you still have Addie Applegate. Definitely a lot of competition there, so we'll have to see how it goes.
That'll do it for Texas A&M. Now we can move on to the team that they played in the finals, who also lost a really key piece. We have Kentucky here, who were the runners-up, of course, and now they're still ranked up there at number 3 in the nation.
Yeah, that preseason poll definitely shows a lot to the strength of this program still. Of course, we're talking about losing Eva Hudson here, was one of the best players in the nation last year. She played really well, great transfer. She's now playing in League One Atlanta, so congratulations to her. But that is a big shoe to fill. Of course, they also lost 3 other players that did play a good amount for them. Ava Sarafa, she ended up playing a little bit as that 6'2", as that other setter. She went over to UCLA. Jordan Daly was one of the middles. She also played some right side. She went over to Pitt. And Brooke Baltima, she went over to Louisville. Again, one of the contributors at that middle spot. So some big pieces that did leave, but of course, this team is still going to be looking good.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a lot of depth that they're losing there. And of course, a starter, a main starter, the main outside, one, two, maybe, main outside. But that's a lot of depth that you're losing for this team.
Yeah, but luckily, they were still able to bring someone in that was very, very great for them. They were able to bring in Morgan Garrett, who has been an absolute baller at Notre Dame. She was one of the team captains over there. She's a junior now. She was an All-American honorable mention. She was also first team in the ACC, and she was also put on that Player of the Year watch list. So definitely a player that can make some big noise and do really, really well for this Kentucky team. Maybe kind of mimic that type of transfer of not exactly Eva Hudson, but hey, who's to put a ceiling on her?
I mean, it feels like it could be to that level, potentially.
Yeah, it definitely helps out to bring in a really strong player. Brittany Koval was also brought in from ASU as a setter. She's a redshirt junior as well, so definitely just bringing in extra depth, trying to replenish just the players that you ended up missing. They also brought in a bunch of freshmen here. Bellamy Buse, she's an outside. She was an Under Armour All-American. She was also the Idaho Gatorade Player of the Year back in 2024. You also have Sydney Burley, who is a libero/DS, was also an Under Armour All-American. So some really good players right there. Next up, you have Gracieson Sailors. She's also a middle blocker. She's playing really well. We'll see if she can get some playing time as well. Bria Brew, she is a right side, and she's also been invited to that national team development program 3 times. And you also have Caroline Prohoda, who's a setter. And again, kind of just adding to that extra depth for this team.
Yeah, I think this was going to be a couple changes that are going to add to the depth, but maybe they're a little bit more for the future than maybe right now, win now for this number 3 in the nation team.
Yeah, again, it's hard to say how much the freshmen are going to play just because there is so much of the roster remaining. But hey, that is really great to have that depth in case there are injuries. Hopefully not, but that's just how it works. So they definitely have a lot of extra talent. But back to the returning players, we got Brooklyn DeLay, right? The outside, she's a senior now. She was an All-American first teamer. She was one of the Player of the Year semifinalists. She was on all SEC, and of course, she's going to be on the Player of the Year watch list.
She could have been a big contender for that Player of the Year last year, but of course, her and Eva Hudson being on the same team, it was just too OP. You couldn't give them that award.
Yeah, it kind of hurts each other's chances because they were both playing really well. They both had really great moments. So definitely hurt their chances for that Player of the Year.
Yeah, and she's only getting better this year, so let's see how that goes.
Yeah, that's senior year. Brooklyn's coming out for some vengeance. Molly Tuzzo, of course, the libero for the team. She's a senior now as well. She was an All-American third teamer. She was also All-SEC second team. And she was also that SEC tournament MVP when Kentucky made that amazing run and they played so well. She was amazing. And she's also going to be on that Player of the Year watch list.
Now, of course, I don't really know if a libero's ever going to win that, but
unfortunately, probably not.
Yeah, but shout out to her. She was on our fantasy team last year. Hey, who knows? We could be looking to pick her up again. She could be balling out, getting a ton of digs once again.
Yeah, and one of my favorite liberos, one of my favorite players. Cassie O'Brien is returning after her Freshman of the Year campaign. She's now a sophomore, of course. She's also on that All-American second team, and she's also pretty easily the SEC Freshman of the Year. There were a lot of really great freshmen as well, but you win the AVCA one, you're going to win the SEC one. Also going to be on that Player of the Year watch list as a sophomore already.
Yeah, and I think she has a lot of really good weapons, once again, to work with. So even if last year you're like, oh yeah, she just has really good players to work with, she has them back again, so she's going to be able to make do quite well.
She showed so much talent last year already, and that was being into a new program, playing college for the first time, so definitely expecting big things from her. Lizzie Carr is, of course, returning as well. She's a redshirt senior now, but she was a starting middle, and she was third in kills, and she also, of course, led the team in blocks. Definitely balling out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people had questions about her during the beginning of the season last year, but I think she really came into her own and kind of proved herself.
Next up, we have Aisha Thigpen. I've kind of put her down as a pin, because we'll see, we'll talk about the starting lineup in a bit, but she was the right side last year. They experimented with Jordan Daly as well. But Aisha Thigpen had a really great time in that national tournament. She had some really, really big moments for them. She played in most of the matches and then started a bunch of them, and she was also fourth in kills.
Yes, shockingly, she was one of the clutch go-to players, and that's when she was playing with Brooklyn DeLay and Eva Hudson as her teammates. So to be a primary option in the clutch with those players on your team, that's pretty big.
Yeah, she was definitely making some big time plays. Next up, we have Kennedy Washington. She's also going to be a middle that's going to be returning. She's a junior. She actually split time with Brooke Baltimore last year, but she was fifth in kills and also third in blocks.
Yep, we're definitely going to need to see a little bit more out of her this year because she's going to be one of those starting middles probably.
And then Molly Brezowitz as well, lib/DS. She's a senior, and she played in all the matches as a DS, so definitely looking to see her more again and providing a lot of that kind of supporting cast along with Molly Tuzzo.
Probably going to do the same thing, and she's probably going to be needed to go in for one of the pins again.
Next, we have Georgia Watson. She's an outside, and she's a sophomore returning, and she looked really good in the preseason, to be honest, and it was really exciting to see her play because you didn't really see much of it last year, so it's a great addition to have, and we'll kind of have to see how the lineup shakes up.
Yeah, let's see if she can crack the starting lineup and kind of show out, maybe.
Trinity Ward is also there as one of the libero/DSs helping out. She's a sophomore now, so we'll see a little bit more of her as well. And then Hannah Benjamin was an outside redshirt sophomore. Not sure how much we're going to be able to see from her, but hey, she's definitely going to be available and she can definitely help out and fill up some time.
And now for, I guess, general thoughts about this roster, all these changes. It may seem pretty big with, of course, losing Eva Hudson and all of the supporting cast.
Yeah.
But they are keeping a lot of the starters still, a lot of these core players, and they're only going to get better, and they're still going to be one of the most dangerous teams in the nation.
Yeah, and I kind of hearkened to it earlier. I do think that the Morgan Garrett replacement idea is kind of in the workings here. Of course, again, it's hard to say to live up to playing as well as Eva Hudson did last year. But that is the idea, at least for their team, to have that production replaced somehow. Of course, it could be internal development. We'll talk about it in the starting lineup, but definitely going to be a huge piece for them. I mean, she's super physical. And then I think they're definitely looking to contend again for a national championship. They've gotten that respect at number 3. I do definitely think that they are a threat in the SEC. Definitely can win the SEC again as well.
Yep, they're definitely looking to repeat, but now it's time for us to give our potential starting 7. So who's going to be your starting 7 for Kentucky?
For the setter, I think, of course, it's going to be Cassie O'Brien, especially with Ava Sarafa leaving. Cassie O'Brien played so well, and I mean, you kind of need someone to be able to fill that role with Ava Sarafa leaving. You got to play pretty much the whole time, I would say. She did already, but I'm not sure if the 6-2 is going to be in play. Cassie O'Brien's definitely setting here and starting.
Yeah, one of the best new setters in the nation last year, and I think she's going to continue to show that.
And then for the outsides, I kind of have, and I think it's very interesting. Of course, Brooklyn DeLay is the obvious one to slot in here on that outside. But I do think the other outside spot is going to be in question. Me personally, I think Asia Thigpen is going to be there. I thought she's been looking really good in the preseason, and I was so excited to see how she played during the tournament last year. I do think she definitely has a huge shot at it. Georgia Watson as well. She also has a shot at it. I think the question is just, she didn't really play that much last year, so Asia Thigpen's experience, that might help out a lot. But you kind of have to throw in the Morgan Garrett. I don't think she's playing outside. I'm just going to call it now, but hey, who knows what Craig Skinner is cooking up. I would say she's probably on the right side.
Yeah, this position, the second outside and the right side, could be a whole big mix-up. You never really know how the pins are going to go there.
Yeah, so Brooklyn DeLay, Asia Thigpen for me on the outside. Next up for the middles, I have Lizzie Carr, of course, and then Kennedy Washington. I think that's pretty natural. They both were playing last year, so I think it makes pretty much sense.
Yeah, we're expecting big things from them. They're probably going to be one of the top middle duos in the nation again.
Definitely helps out. And then, of course, right side, I think is Morgan Garrett. You're brought in from Notre Dame. You played really well over there. Now you're, of course, coming into a really good team at Kentucky. They're going to be looking for a lot from her.
Yep, I think she's going to take on that Eva Hudson offensive role, but from the right side, so I think maybe that'll diversify the offense a little bit, which is good.
And then, of course, rounding out the starting 7 is Molly Tuzzo, of course, one of the best liberos in the nation. She's going to be doing it again.
Now it's time for us to move on to maybe the team that most of you guys wanted to hear about, even though there aren't really any big changes.
Shout out to you time stampers.
Yeah, we got Nebraska right here. They are rank 1. They've been rank 1 all of 2025. They did lose to Texas A&M, but those were the eventual champions, so we don't really give them a pass, but we'll give them a slight pass because they might have been able to win if not for that.
We're enjoyers of volleyball. Shout out that banger game, though.
Yeah. But in terms of graduates, they do have a couple of major pieces leaving. Of course, we have Rebecca Alec, the middle blocker, who leveled up her game last year and kind of felt like she was taking Nebraska to that next level. Then Ali Czech, the right side, who was splitting time with Virginia Adriano and came in a little bit situationally and kind of to give teams second looks. She's graduated and now is joining MLV NorCal. Taylor Landfair is joining her in MLV NorCal, but was also the starting outside for this Nebraska team last year and for a couple of years before that. So that's going to be another big piece to lose. And you're also losing Maisie Boziger as one of your DSs. So that's tough for the defense, but also a little bit of a team morale hit, I feel.
Yeah, I will say it definitely sucks losing such a great group of players that they really had an impact on the team. Rebecca Alec definitely is the headliner for that, but Taylor Landfair, Ali Czech, Macy Boziger, they all played a really big role for that team as well, but they still have a lot of returning players that, of course, the team is still going to be really good.
And there's a lot of team culture lost there, but a lot that is going to stay. But before we get into it, let's quickly go over the transfers out and the transfers in, because there were none.
Yeah.
No one transfers out, and I guess no one's transferring in to Nebraska.
Yeah, I think that's like a quick little storyline of just, I think that really shows that DBK has really taken over this Nebraska program and made it her own to retain all the players and not have to bring anyone in because you were able to retain all the players. So definitely big ups to her. That's really cool.
But we do have to replace some of those players somehow. So that was through the freshmen, where we're starting it off with Keone Williams, who's a middle blocker who played on the US U19 national team and the U21 World Championship national team, who just played this past summer. So she's going to be really great and is a really great prospect. She was number 8 overall by Prep Dig and number 10 overall by Prep Volleyball.
Yeah, you do have to find replacements in the middle without Rebecca Alec, but they did have a lot of really great middles already, so it's going to be really interesting.
And from those same Team USA U19, U21 teams, we have Jaden Robinson, the outside hitter. She was the number 10 overall prospect by Prep Volley and the number 12 by Prep Dig.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how she's going to fit in with that outside group, because there's a lot of really great outsides for the team, but they, of course, are still going to be able to bring in really good talent.
And another great outside they're bringing in, we have Gabby DeVita, who is an outside hitter, who was also the captain for the U.S. National Team Development Program. So a lot of leadership being brought in. And she was the number 19 overall prospect by Prep Dig and number 20 by Prep Volleyball. So big recruiting class for this Nebraska team.
Yeah, it's so interesting because they're all so decorated as athletes. But of course, it's Nebraska, so that's the pedigree of players. There's only 3 here. But hey, you only lost 4 to graduation, so I guess it is pretty similar.
But now let's just go over this returning roster because it's got a lot of players you guys know and love. Let's start it off with Bergen Riley, the setter. Of course, 3-time All-American. Last year, she was on the first team, and the 2 years before that, she was on the second team. She was the setter of the year last year, and she's on the player of the year watch list this year. Then in that same senior class, we have Andy Jackson, the middle blocker, 2-time All-American first team. She was the middle of the year last year and is joining her on that national player of the year watch list. Then Harper Murray, outside hitter. You all know and love her. 3-time All-American. Last year, first team. 2 years ago, second team. 3 years ago, third team. And also on that watch list.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the core 3 right there. When honestly you think about Nebraska at this point, that's who you think about. And it's really great that you're able to bring all 3 of them back. And I feel that they're fighting for this one because it is their senior season. This is time to really go for it. So I'm sure they're hungry for it.
And we got one more important senior here in Lainey Choboy, the libero/DS. She switched off that role with Olivia Malk a little bit, who's also returning, but they're both really, really good defensive players, some of the best in the nation. And now for some of the underclassmen, let's kick it off with Virginia Adriano, who's the right side, who was still finding her footing last year, but started to get into a groove by the end of the year. I think she's going to come into this year looking really, really good and being one of the most dominant right sides in the nation.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely tell it was an adjustment, I think, with the setting and the program and the culture. I think it's a huge shell shock, but you saw that she definitely found what she wanted to play like at the end of the season, so we're definitely looking forward to her second season.
And speaking of players in their second season, we have Campbell Flynn, one of the best setters in the nation. She is somehow having to not be a starter as she's playing behind Bergen Riley, but she's poised to take on this Nebraska setting role right after Bergen Riley graduates. And we're probably going to see Campbell Flynn anyways. They did it last year. They let her even start a couple of games where they just rested Bergen Riley.
Yeah, and to me, this, again, just shows what DBK has been able to do, that you have a player of this caliber kind of just waiting on the wings here, getting ready and getting prepared, and you know she's going to be passing with flying colors when she takes the spot.
Now let's talk about players who are kind of waiting in the wing for their big opportunity. First off, we have Taraya Sigler, the outside hitter. Now, she wasn't necessarily waiting for her opportunity because she was the DS for Taylor Landfair last year, but now I think it's going to be time for her to take on that starting role, get to play a little bit more offense where they let her play sometimes last year, but now she's really going to get a lot of those reps in.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch her play more and more front row during this season because she would play all the back row and she would get some swings. You would see her run in the BIC. And it was really fun to watch. But hey, let's see her hit even more in the front row as well.
Yeah, no more time to wait for her because she was the number 1 prospect for her class last year. Let's move on to another player joining her at the top of that recruiting class. We have Manaya Ogbeche, who is a middle blocker who was also waiting for her moment. Of course, being stuck behind Rebecca Alec and Andy Jackson last year. That was going to be tough to break through. She did get a couple moments where she got to play, but now I think she's really going to get her time to shine.
Yeah, and you were able to see it peeking out a little bit last year of the talent that she's able to provide and how great she is. So I'm really excited to see her play as well. I think we really only got a peek of it last year. It's going to be really fun now.
And then moving on, we have Skylar Pierce, the outside hitter, who's a redshirt sophomore / junior, depending on how you want to count the 5-year thing now. But last year, she played a solid amount. She played in 24 sets. I think she did okay in her moments that she was given. And we're probably going to see a little bit more of her whenever the opportunity arises. It could be like last year. I mean, there's a lot of great players still.
Yeah, we're going to have to see how it ends up going just because of all the outside core and all the players that are still here. So it's going to be interesting to see how that outside room develops.
But moving on, another player where it could be a little bit iffy, we have Ryan Hunter on the right side. She is a redshirt freshman / sophomore, depending on that ruling, but she was the number 3 right side for her class, and I think because we did lose Ali Czech, we are probably going to see a little bit more of her. I know a lot of people last year, they really wanted to see Ryan Hunter play, get some opportunities. I think you're going to get a little bit of that this year at the very least, if not a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. I don't think they're going to toy with the 6-2, but hey, they might do it maybe in certain situations that they might do it, bringing Campbell Flynn, Ryan Hunter as well. So it'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, also with maybe some of the scheduling, a couple back-to-backs, they might want to bring him in.
Yeah.
And then to round out the rest of this roster, we have Carrie Leinbach, who was a libero/DS. She didn't really play that much last year. She is a top DS prospect. And we also have Kenna Coggill, who's a middle blocker. In her class, she was the number 24 prospect, but didn't really play last year, so it's tough to say how much she's going to get this year. And now just to talk about this Nebraska team as a whole, you already said it earlier, this is a team full of seniors, a golden generation of seniors. I think this is really their chance to make something happen because ever since they were freshmen, they've been chasing a national championship. They've been expected to get that national championship, and they haven't been able to do it yet. So there's a lot of weight being put onto this season. Now, of course, they could all potentially have a fifth year. Yeah. But I'm not really sure if they all want to do that because it does seem like some League One teams are kind of looking to grab some of those players before the start of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I do think that if they get it, I think they're going to be locks to just go pro and they're going to graduate. But if they don't, maybe that is going to be a chance to see them play for that fifth year with the new ruling. But I'm really excited. The senior class, I mean, we've seen how great they've developed and been as players with all that expectation put on them. They've been able to play really well. And I'm just excited to see how that other talent is going to be playing alongside them and how this team is really going to shape up.
Yeah, I think they better be just as dominant as they were last year because a lot of the players are the same and all of the returners should be getting better.
We talked about the team, but we have not said the starting seven yet. Let me know, who is your starting seven for Nebraska?
This is going to be very, very easy. We can run through this really fast because it's a lot of the same as last year. Starting at the setter, Bergen Riley, of course. Best setter in the nation last year. She's going to run it back. On the outside, Harper Murray, an easy lock. One of the best outsides in the nation as well. Then I think we're going to see Tariah Sigler take on that role where she was kind of the DS last year on that outside, but I think she's going to start playing full 6 rotations. And we got a similar situation in the middle where Andy Jackson is, of course, a lock, being the best middle blocker in the nation. And then we have Manaya Ogbeche taking that spot from Rebecca Alec, where she was already primed to take that spot last year. So it's hers to have now.
We saw a little bit of it before, but I think it's definitely time for her to kind of sprout her wings and do really, really well now.
And then on the right side, of course, we're going to have Virginia Adriano, where she was doing this for the team last year on the right side. She's going to run it back. Things started to mesh a lot more towards the end of the season, so I'm expecting it to roll on to this season. And then for the libero, I think we're going to have the same exact situation where we have a mix of Lainey Choboy and Olivia Malk, where the other will DS when needed.
Yeah, I don't really see DBK switching that. I think it looked so good last year and it really worked for them. But hey, I guess we have to see if one of them ended up improving a lot and then maybe they were able to take that libero jersey away.
I guess we'll have to see. That's going to be a tough one. But next, let's just move straight on to Pitt, one of the top teams in the nation with the 2-time reigning National Player of the Year. A lot of big expectations here. They did also lose in the semifinals to Texas A&M, the eventual champion, so maybe we won't be as harsh on them, but they did have what felt like a rough 2025 season.
Yeah, even though we said it kind of at the end of the season that the beginning of the season didn't look as great, but they still found their footing and they ended up doing really well. And it kind of is the curse of Pitt at this point, which I'm so sorry to say that because it sucks. But they're such a great team, but they have always found their ways in Final Fours and have not really gotten past it. But maybe this could be the year.
Yeah, let's see, because they do still have a lot of players that graduated. And let's kick off that list with Bree Kelly, the middle blocker who joined the Orlando Valkyries and is now going to be playing in Germany next year. So you know she was that good. She was honestly one of the best middles in the nation kind of last year, but years prior to that, absolutely. Then we have Brooke Mosier, the setter from last year who played on the Omaha Supernovas and is now going to the MLV Minnesota team. Then also Emery Dupes, who was one of the libero/DSs last year. They switched it around a little bit, but that is losing a main libero/DS. Then Dagmar Moritz as well. I don't really know if she graduated or not. I didn't really know where to put her, but yeah, she left the team because she's from the Netherlands. She came in at like a little bit of an older age. I think she's already like 22, something like that right now. So I don't know what the eligibility was, but Yeah, she was another big piece, a big offensive piece for this Pitt team where she would get a lot of kills. Of course, there were a bunch of errors that came with it, but when they needed an outside who get kills, she was an important piece for this Pitt team.
Yeah, now playing in Germany, so wish her the best of luck, though.
And now we also have a bunch of players who transferred out. We have Ryla Jones to start it off. She was one of the middle blockers. She transferred to Penn State, and she was like the second middle blocker, but I think last year a problem that a lot of people noticed was that the middle blockers for Pitt were pretty underutilized, so I can understand why she transferred out.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about it later, but that stacked Penn State team.
Then we also have Dahlia Verlin, who's a middle, who transferred to Oregon. She didn't really play last year, so I'm sure she's transferring there to get more opportunity. And then to round out the losses for this Pitt team, we have Kiana Din, who was a right side / setter hybrid. She transferred to South Carolina. She also didn't really play too much, so probably looking for more opportunity.
Yeah, very interesting transfers for this team so far. I think definitely the loss of Ryla Jones hurts. But again, it was kind of weird just because I felt both middles weren't really utilized that much. So it hurts. But then also, I don't know, it was kind of a weird thing with the middles last year.
Yeah, I can understand it a little bit because that's a weird situation. But now that we were talking about transfers out, let's talk about these big transfers in because we have Izzy Stark to kick it off, one of the best setters in the nation. She was a national champion 2 years ago. Didn't play last year because of a little bit of a situation that I don't know if the world will ever fully know the details on, but
mental health.
Yeah.
I think that's what we just chalk it up to.
Yeah, mental health, where she is leaving that Penn State team that she came from, and now she's looking to set up Olivia Babcock, so I think she'll be all right here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still so excited, and I mean, we don't really even have to talk about that just because we still just know how great of a player she is, and she's always conducted herself really well, so I'm really excited to have her back in the volleyball world, and we're just excited to see how she's going to be able to play.
Oh yeah, I think she's going to be a contender to be one of the best setters in the nation once again. Then let's move on to the other transfer in that they have. You mentioned her earlier. We have Jordan Daly, the middle blocker from Kentucky, and I think she's going to be a solid contributor on this team. She was probably looking for a little bit more playtime, and I think she'll get it here.
Yeah, Jordan Daly did play quite well for that Kentucky team that ended up doing really, really well, especially at the end of the season. So looking for more opportunity here, and I think she'll definitely get it.
But now we have to talk about this big freshman class that they're bringing in, a bunch of really great players. Let's kick it off with Maaike Helig, who's a middle blocker who played a little bit of pro in the Netherlands. This is a trend that we're starting to see with just the NCAA, where they're bringing in these young players who got to play a little bit of pro at a younger age. So that's pretty cool. She was the Rookie of the Year in the Dutch Premier Division last year, so I think she's going to be a great addition for this Pitt team.
Yeah, very interesting.
Next, we have Ayanna Watson, who is a number 5 ranked recruit outside hitter by Prep Volleyball and number 6 by Prep Dig. She was the 2026 Under Armour Next MVP, and I think she's going to be one of the top players just going into this next season and moving forward. To be fair, her dad, CJ Watson, did play a little bit of NBA.
Shout out CJ Watson. Definitely a lot of fun memories with him and the Pacers, honestly.
Moving on, we have Jessica Smallwood, who was the number 1 recruit out of the state of Kentucky, being a right side, and was ranked number 55 nationally. Then we have Trinity Thompson, a setter / DS combo, who was the number 51 recruit in the nation on Prep Dig. And then Lola Sagier, an outside hitter who was the 24-25 Central New York Player of the Year. And she was an AVCA Girls High School National Player of the Year nominee. Big things coming from this Pitt class. It's going to be fun to see some of them try to break through and get some starter minutes.
Yeah, I think it's very open. There's definitely a shot for them, but of course you kind of just have to see how they acclimate to the college scene. You saw Maaike Helig. We're going to have to see how that transfers over for her from playing pro, coming over to the U.S., playing in NCAA.
But now let's kick it off with the retained roster, starting off with the one, the only Olivia Babcock. Right side, the best right side, 2-time National Player of the Year. What more do I need to say?
Freaking Thanos. That's what you have to say.
Yeah, she's going to be destroying the competition once again, and she's probably going to enjoy being set up by Izzy Stark.
Yeah, it's going to be so exciting seeing her play once again and again, just with a team that I feel like there are still questions, so it feels like she's going to be asked to do even more, which is crazy to say, because I feel like there were moments last year where she was doing so much and she's playing so well still, so maybe we're going to get even more again.
Hopefully there's going to be a couple other players who can grow and help ease that offensive load. Let's start it off with Blair Bayless, the main offensive weapon, aside from Olivia Babcock last year, on the outside. Hopefully she's going to come back stronger, better as a senior this year.
Yeah, she definitely looked like she got a lot more confident as the season went on, and she looked really, really good to me offensively. So definitely excited to see her have another season under her belt.
And then next up, we have two of the returning DSs who both played a whole bunch. We have Mallory Meyer and Izzy Masden. Now, I think they're both going to be fighting for that starting libero spot. It's a little bit up in the air, honestly. I think still a tough choice to make, but I think they're both going to see a ton of play time. They already did last year, so they're both going to be big contributors for this defense. Then we have Marina Pazel, who's an outside hitter, sophomore. She's from France/Monaco. She played a little bit of pro, and last year it was an up and down sort of thing where she struggled a little bit. I think she found a big role for herself at the very end of the season where she felt like another go-to offensive weapon, but the rest of it is a little iffy. But I know to start the season, there's some questions about her health. I think she's recovering from an injury, so we'll see how she ends up by the beginning of the season. Then we have Haiti Tatua'a, who was the backup setter last year / starter for a little bit, and I think she's going to play the same exact role where she's going to be the backup setter and going to be a serve sub or a dub sub when needed.
Yeah, I think the serve sub is definitely up in question, definitely possible, but I kind of have to see, how does Izzy Stark play? But assuming that she plays still really well, like she probably will, might not see as much of Haiti just because of that, but you never know.
And then we have Abby Emsch in the middle. She's a sophomore, and she was part of that revolving middle core that didn't really get set too much, but when she was playing, she at least looked like a really good blocker, so I think she can earn her way onto the court. And then our last returner, we have Sophia Gregoire, who's an outside hitter, redshirt junior/senior. She came into this team from Oregon, playing in 23 and 24 there, and she was a great bench outside last year. She played in 26 of the matches and 56 of the sets. Now, just to talk about this team as a whole, of course, this is going to always be a major contending team when you have Olivia Babcock.
Yeah.
But I think the rest of the positions, there's still a lot of questions, especially that outside. So we're going to have to see how things progress with all those outside hitters. I know passing was a little rough for them last year, so we'll see how all of them can look.
Yeah, I think the consistency is always going to be the question for me. Of course, we know what Olivia Babcock is going to be able to do, but now you do have Izzy Stark, and I do think that once she gets comfortable again, or if she just comes out of the gate playing really, really well, this team is going to look a lot more confident just having a setter that's going to be able to do all the things that you need her to do. And I do think with the rest of the players, having that extra year under their belt does help out this team just a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a must-watch team, especially at the beginning of the season to see how they look, how they've progressed.
Yeah, definitely wanting to see that Izzy Stark, Olivia Babcock connection. But now we got to talk about that starting seven for Pitt. Let me know, who is your starting seven for this Pitt team?
So for the setter, I think this is going to be a little bit easy. We have Izzy Stark. Of course, she's got brought in for a reason, and that is to start, and that is to be one of the best setters in the nation. And then for the outsides, I think, of course, we're going to have Blair Bayless returning. For that second spot, it's going to be a little bit of a competition between Sophia Gregoire and Ayanna Watson. I think it could go either way, but I'm going to lean a little bit towards Sophia Gregoire right now.
I personally think it's going to be Ayanna Watson. I think I'm just so high off of a freshman that's coming in playing so well and looking that good. I'm thinking that she might be able to take that spot, but I do think to start off with, it might make sense for Sophia Gregoire unless Ayanna Watson is just killing it in the gym, I guess.
And similarly for the middle blockers, it's going to be a little bit confusing on what we're going to see. I think we're going to see all three of the middles here, which is Abby Emsch, Jordan Daly, and Maike Helig. So I think all three of them are going to have to play. Starting off, I think we're going to see Abby Emsch and Jordan Daly maybe as the two starters. It's hard to tell with international players, so I'm not really sure where to stand there. For the right side, very, very easy. Olivia Babcock. If you thought otherwise, you are on something.
No notes.
And then for the libero, it's a race between Izzy Masden and Mallory Meyer. Right now, I personally like Izzy Masden a little bit more, I think, just on that serve reception, but I can see it going either way.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mallory Meyer, when she was playing libero, she looked really good, so I'm going to rock Mallory Meyer.
But that can take us on to the next team where we have Wisconsin, another big team, another contender, who suffered some losses in terms of their roster.
This Wisconsin team lost to Kentucky in the semifinals there, and this was still returning, coming back as the number 6 in the preseason poll. But there are a lot of big changes coming. Of course, the graduates, it's Mimi Collier. She was the MLV Outside of the Year, and she went over to League One Madison. She was, of course, was an All-American last year, playing at Wisconsin, so she looked really, really good.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the toughest losses. She was one of my favorite players last year, so I'm not as interested in this Wisconsin team anymore, to be completely be honest.
Yeah, she was your National Player of the Year pretty much.
Almost got there, but Olivia Babcock was just too good.
Next up, of course, is Carter Booth. She played Italy A1, and then she moved over, played a little bit of MLV for that Dallas Pulse team. And now she's going over to League One, playing with the SF Signal. So, again, one of the middles that played so well last year was a huge part of that team.
Yeah, one of the biggest blocking presences in the nation. So I think this is going to be a tough loss for Wisconsin.
And then Allie Andrew was the other starting middle for this team. She played at MLV Atlanta, and now she's going over to that MLV Minnesota team. I was actually a really big fan of what Allie Andrew was able to do. I thought she played really well for that Wisconsin team. But we move on. Jada Cherniglia, she was one of the libero/DSs. She didn't play too much, but again, having that leadership leave does suck as well. Then we got to talk about the transfers. The transfers out. Una Vajacic, she left for ASU, one of the players that she ended up playing a lot, especially in the postseason, but she was very integral to that team.
Yeah, I think maybe for her, she saw her spot kind of wavering back and forth, so she had to transfer out, and that just sucks. She was really good.
Next up, we have Anaya Warren. She was also a player that made so many head-turning plays. She, of course, was one of the top-ranked liberos in 2025 going into the season, but she moved over to Oklahoma, which, again, kind of seeing how Kristen Simon was playing, it was difficult to find that playing time. I kind of understand it.
Yeah, Anaya Warren, I think when we saw her as that DS, we were all like, dang, she could be a libero like at a lot of different schools.
Another player that played really well in the time that she got, Addie Horner. I was really excited to see how she was going to be able to play. But of course, you still have Charlie Furbringer there, one of the better setters in the nation. And she wanted to have more opportunity, I would assume. She went over to TCU, but I'm still really excited because that is a very exciting offensive team whenever you watch them play. You should watch them more TCU, and I definitely will with Addie Horner going there.
Yeah, I thought Addie Horner looked pretty skilled, but it's tough being behind Charlie Furbringer.
Next, Trinity Shad Series left for Creighton. Again, she had some really good moments as well during the tournament. She had some really great plays filling in on the outside, so another big loss.
Yeah, but Creighton, I guess, another good team to leave to, so gotta respect it.
Miley Chan went to FSU, and then Tosha Serafinowska went to ASU as well.
Yeah, I guess also trying to get more opportunities.
Next, we gotta talk about the transfers for Wisconsin here. Jayla Auguste, again, was a huge pickup, getting her from Florida. She played really well, one of the really good middles in the nation, and now she joins a team that is famous for having really great middles throughout their program history, and I think she's going to do the same.
Yeah, I think she's going to feast, and that is probably why they put her on that AVCA Player of the Year watch list.
Next up, they brought in Isabel Hopp. She's a setter, and she was a freshman, but she decommitted from Pitt, so I kind of put her here as a transfer, but also still a freshman as well.
Yeah, that's a weird middle ground.
Then we also have Eva Travis. She's an outside, and she came in from UC Santa Barbara. She's a redshirt junior, and she was the Big West Freshman of the Year back in 2024. And she was also just recently on the Big West second team. I believe she was also second in kills per set for the Big West as well.
While it is a not as big conference, I think they still got a lot of good players out there.
Yeah, so still a pretty good amount of players that they brought in to replace those players that ended up leaving. Next up, we have the freshmen here. It's a very big, but really good freshman class that they brought in. This is pretty much half the team here. I believe it's like 9 players. Hallie Thompson is the first freshman. She's an outside. She's been on the USA National Team Development Program. She's also an Under Armour All-American. She's also ranked number 2 by Prep Volleyball and Prep Dig.
That is a pretty scary outside to get when you're losing Mimi Collier. That's a solid placement.
I thought she's been looking pretty solid in those preseason games, but there's another outside that is looking really good as well. Audrey Flanagan. She's also been on the USA National Team Development Program. She's also an Under Armour All-American, and then number 4 and 5 by Prep Volleyball and Prep Dig. But man, has she been looking really good in the preseason games. I'm pretty hyped on her.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things, so let's see if they can take some starting spots here. That'd be pretty cool.
Next is Lenny Tarnow, also another middle blocker that is coming in with a lot of hype and has done a lot of things in her high school career and club career. Also with that USA National Team Development Program. Again, also another Under Armour All-American, and she's the number 1 ranked middle blocker for Prep Dig.
This class is continuing to be stacked.
Yeah, and again, this is always just running the theme for Wisconsin, having those really big middles that play really well, super physical. She's 6'5". I think she's definitely keeping up that. Next is Anna Bardaro. She's a libero/DS, but she was on the U21 Italian championship team. But more importantly, she's played pro with Cuneo in the Italian A1 league from 2021 to 2025, and she was also with Conigliano behind Monica De Janeiro for quite a couple of years.
Another Virginia Adriano situation where I guess now the 5-for-5 rule might make it a little bit more clear, where Yeah, she probably finished high school a couple years ago, but it's another weird situation. But she is going to be super good for this team.
Yeah, this is a huge signing for them. It's kind of weird. She is also 21, but classified as a freshman. So I think that is really like what you're saying, that Virginia Adriano type of thing. But this level of experience playing that much pro, it is a very, very big hit for Wisconsin. Like I said before, Isabel Hopp, the setter, Under Armour All-American. She's from Pitt, and she also decommitted from Pitt. Desilee's champion. She's a pin. I believe she's been playing mainly right side, especially for that Puerto Rico national team. I believe she was one of the youngest to debut on that team, playing when she was super young teenager. And she's been really good, really physical player as well. So definitely look out for her, probably on that right side.
The Puerto Rican players all have insane arms, so we're definitely going to have to watch out for her.
Next is Alyssa Conrad, a libero/DS. She's a Madison, Wisconsin native as well. Jana Manecki is a middle blocker, and then Kimora Scott is a middle blocker, and I think she's also been playing a little bit of right side as well.
Yeah, you were right. That is a lot of freshmen to bring in, so big class for these guys.
Yeah, that's 9 freshmen there. But we still have the returning players, and there's a lot of really good players still left. Charlie Furbringer is, of course, who you think about for Wisconsin now. She's a setter, of course. She's a junior now, and she was a Big Ten first team, one of the best setters in the nation, obviously, and again on that Player of the Year watch list. Even after she had a season that was kind of messed up by that shoulder injury that we kind of thought maybe she was going to be out. I remember you mentioned that maybe she was going to be out the rest of the season. I was just hoping that she was going to be back. She did come back, but again, missing that, I think it was a couple weeks, and still coming back, being one of the best setters in the nation, and still proving that during that season. That was really impressive.
Yeah, I know. We've gotten a lot of talk about her being one of the best in the nation, and I'm ready to see her prove it for a full season this time.
Next up is Grace Lopez. She is still here on this Wisconsin team. She's a right side, of course, redshirt junior now, and she was a 2024 and 2023 AVCA All-American honorable mention. She is returning from injury, of course, and it was from an ACL, so very high hopes for her, but of course it is going to be difficult to return from that injury, so we have to see how she's going to end up playing.
Yeah, I think hopefully she can just take her time with this, especially, as you said, that freshman class, they got a lot of good players there, like Champion, so I think maybe she can take her time recovery-wise, doesn't need a push to come back or anything.
Next up is Grace Egan. She played some right side and outside. She's a redshirt junior and returning starter. She was 4th in kills, and she also led the team in aces. Very big piece.
Maybe she's going to look at the outside. It's hard to tell with all the stacked freshmen that they have.
Next up is Kristen Simon, the libero from last year that split with Anaya Warren, and she's a sophomore now, and again, she kind of took over that starting spot.
That's what happens when your draft classes are too good year after year.
Yeah, and we think about it, a little while back, Lola Schumacher was actually on this team, and she went to UCLA. Of course, she went out and played really well for UCLA, but just a thing to remember. Madison Quest is still returning, a sophomore as well. She's playing on the pin, and she played some front row in a lot of matches.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit of her this season for sure.
Natalie Wardlow, middle, but she was pretty much a serving sub for the most part last year, and she's actually doing really well. She was 2nd in aces, but I'm definitely looking to her to play a little bit more of the front row, playing in the middle for sure.
I love middles that can serve well.
Oh, yeah.
It's always so OP.
Yeah, she's still going to serve even better. I think being in the flow of the game probably helps her even more. Next up, we have Morgan Van Wee. She's a setter, and she's a junior now, and she didn't play too much, but again, having that depth at the setter spot is definitely going to be important. And then overall thoughts for this team after their season last year being in the semifinals. It's a very young team with no seniors, which is very interesting. I feel like you really don't see that nowadays. Most of the times it is a team that has a lot of seniors, maybe from transfers, but this is a young team that has so many great players and a lot of questions, I think, of how can these players step up, not having a Mimi Collier that you think about anymore. How's that team going to look? I think they're still going to be really good. For them to be able to really contend, though, I believe the freshmen have to be playing really, really well.
I think it's time for us to see. They're about to run the gauntlet on which freshmen can stand out, show out, earn those spots. And speaking of that, it is now time to talk about our starting 7 for Wisconsin. So who's going to be your starting 7 for Wisconsin?
The setter to me is super easy. It's Charlie Furbringer. That's an easy lock. Next is the outsides. I had a little bit of a tough time just because they kind of all play everywhere. I'm going to say for one of the outsides, it's going to be Grace Egan. You saw how well she played last year. She was able to do both. even when she was playing right side, she would pass as well anyways. So I think she's definitely going to be one of the starters, but I'll say outside for now with that passing responsibility. I think the other outside is going to be very interesting. I'm really high on Audrey Flanagan, so I'm going to say that she's going to be starting. But Hallie Thompson is also really, really good, so I could see it going either way.
The battle of the freshmen is going to be intense.
And the middles, Jayla Gus to me is a lock. Just you brought her in for a reason, and she's going to be a dominant middle for this Wisconsin team.
Yeah, one of the best middles in the nation now in Wisconsin, a middle-heavy program. It's going to be good for her.
Natalie Wardlow, to me, is going to be the other middle, but I also do think that Linny Tarnow could make some noise and maybe take that starting spot. We just have to see, though.
We'll probably see them both play, at least.
And then for the right side, I have Grace Lopez, and this is with the hopes that she is going to be healthy and she's playing well just right again, because not too long ago, she was an All-American honorable mention, so she definitely has the talent to do it. But Desilee's champion definitely has the arm and the physicality that you'd want for a right side right now. I think she could definitely compete for that starting spot.
Yeah, needless to say, Wisconsin will be all right on the right side.
And then I had a really tough time. I feel like Kristen Simon has made so many waves as a libero, especially for that Wisconsin team last year. She was so good. But Anna Badaro I feel like that's a different beast. Playing pro and playing in Italy, being behind one of the GOATs in Monica De Janeiro. I think she's probably going to start, but I think there's still going to be some bias with Kristen Simon being so good and being on the program last year. Maybe they run a 2-lib situation, I'm not sure, but we'll just have to see, I guess.
Their DSs also play a lot, so it's going to be hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I think they're going to find their way on the court.
That means we can just move on to Texas now, another huge team to think about. They are number 2 in the AVCA preseason poll this season, and it's for good reason, even if the roster could be a little bit confusing in certain positions.
Yeah, this team lost to Wisconsin in that quarterfinal, that regional final. But like you said, they were number 2 in that preseason poll, and it's for a good reason. But we have to start with the graduate and the players that they lost. I feel like Emma Halter is definitely one of the players that you think about. One of the last remnants from those dominant Texas teams that won back-to-back championships. She was that libero manning that back row spot. It's going to be tough to see her go.
Yeah, I mean, She was one of the best liberos in the nation, so it's going to be interesting to see how they replace that.
Devin Kahawai, she was one of the pin hitters. She kind of played everything as well when she was needed, but she actually made a switch over to beach after that indoor season last year. I mean, she graduated. I don't really know what she's doing right now, but shout outs to you. Playing beach is also, that's pretty sick after the indoor season.
Yeah, another hard player to replace because she was part of that dub sub and just subbed in wherever she was needed.
Yeah, she was definitely a utility player wherever, and she was going to do well. Kendra Miller, she was an outside for the team. She actually retired from volleyball, but of course it was with some of the injuries that she's had over the years. But again, still a really good player that was a part of those national championship teams.
Yeah, always tough to see with the injuries.
And then now we got to talk about the transfers from the players that they did lose as well. Whitney Lounstein was one of the outsides that they had on that team. She's a graduate student now, but now over at Penn State.
Yeah, it's very interesting because she didn't get too many opportunities here at Texas, so I know she transferred out to get some playing time.
Aiden Ames is another player that was, to me, very surprising, just because she was already starting and she was playing really well for that Texas team. But she's moving over to Creighton, which, again, is another big move for that Creighton team. But it's tough to see Aiden Ames go for those Texas Longhorns.
Yeah, this one just surprised me. I did not see that coming when it first came out. It was one of the early transfers I remember. I was like, whoa, this is like a Woj bomb or something.
Yeah, I thought she was going to stay at Texas, to be honest. And this is not really a transfer in, but I don't know how else to phrase this one. Mackenzie Collins, I think she's been a huge storyline for this Texas team. She was already at Texas at the school, but she was a track athlete. And now she is a dual sport athlete as a volleyball player, and she is a middle. This is going to be crazy to see.
I cannot doubt the athleticism, so that's all that I need to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much she's really going to play, but it does help out. I know Texas fans were a little worried about how the roster was looking with the depth chart. It looked like they only had 2 middles for so long, but now they have 4, so they definitely have the depth now.
Put her in for that block, man.
Moving on to the freshmen, was also a really huge freshman class for this Texas team. Bringing in Henley Anderson, a pin player that I'm sure she can play either, was also with that USA National Team Development Program, U19 and 21, Under Armour All-American, and number 1 by PrepTig. I feel like she was pretty much the number 1 ranked prospect. Next is another really good player. She was ranked very, very, very highly. Genevieve Harris, she's a setter, also with those USA National Team Development Programs, U19, U21, Under Armour All-American, and North Carolina Gatorade Player of the Year, ranked number 3 by PrepDig. definitely going to be looking out for her. I think she can make a very big move depending on how things go for that setting spot.
Yeah, this is where I was confused about the depth chart for Texas this year because they have a lot of setters that are at a similar skill level to me or similar potential.
Yeah, I do think that Ella Swindle's still really, really good. But Genevieve Harris, you bring her in for a reason. So this is going to be very interesting.
Let's see how it is by the end of the season.
Emma Cugino, she's a libero/DS, USA National Team Development Program, U19, and then she's also an Under Armour All-American. They've definitely seen each other, played against each other, I'm sure, in those gyms. So that's kind of cool to have 3 of those players.
Yeah, they know how to play with each other.
Camille Presley was the late commit that I believe I saw that Jarrett Elliott knew that Camille was going to Texas and she was going to commit and kind of reclassify, but it wasn't really known officially. So really cool that it did end up happening. She, of course, has also been on the National Team Development Program for the U.S. And it was announced just a couple days ago, August 10th.
It's one of those things where it's under the table. We already know it's going to happen, but we can't officially say it yet for legal reasons.
Yeah, and then we found out.
Yeah. We found out the same time as you guys.
And then the returning roster has a lot of really great players, of course. We got Tori Stafford. The outsides, she's a senior now. First team All-American. One of the best outsides in the nation. She was a Player of the Year semifinalist. All SEC first team, of course. And, of course, Player of the Year watch list.
Yeah, she's going to be dominant again this year.
Yeah, and this is being her senior season. Definitely excited to see what she's going to do. Kari Spears, another player that made a lot of waves last year. She was right side last year. She could still play either pin, I would think, but probably still right side. Sophomore now. Third team All-American last year. Player of the Year watch list last year as well during the season. All SEC first team. And then, of course, Player of the Year watch list again this year.
Let's see if she can make another big jump because if she can, she's going to be one of the best right sides in the nation easily.
Yeah, and I was singing her praises. If you remember from last year, I was the one saying that she was Freshman of the Year pretty much the whole season.
I think in one of our blind rankings, you had her so high.
I put her very, very high. Shout out Cassie O'Brien. I said it earlier. Really like watching her, but I was definitely a Kari Spears fan. Abby Vanderwall, another sophomore. She was on the outside last year. All SEC freshman team. Feel like she could definitely push for all SEC team now. And she was third on the team in kills, so she was definitely producing really well.
Yeah, let's see if she can absolutely secure that starting spot this year.
Of course, the setter, Ella Swindle, is back. This is her senior season now. Feels like she's been playing for forever. But it's because she was balling out when she was a freshman, winning that national championship in 2023. So she's back. I think, again, she can still definitely run a very good offense for this Longhorns team.
Yeah, very tumultuous for her career, especially after winning that national championship to begin with and being that setter for that team. So it's a little weird to think about.
Yeah, and then she had another really good year after that. And then the year before last year, she ended up having a year that was very awkward with Avery Carlson. And then last year she played well and she kind of got back towards herself. We'll see if she can build upon that. Rilla Binney was the other setter for this Longhorns team. She's a junior, and she really was that secondary setter to run the offense. You would see her sub in a good amount.
Yeah, a lot of that 6'2", which they did run.
Ramsey Gary, to me, is going to be the libero now. She's a senior now, and she was the DS last year, kind of commanding that back row with Emma Halter. I think she's locking up that libero spot.
Yeah, she helped make that defense so elite because last year we were talking about Texas, it being so unfair that they had like two of the best liberos in the nation both playing in the back row at the same time.
And Tori Stafford playing some really good defense too. So
yeah, it was so unfair.
Crazy. Nia Bunton is back as well as a middle blocker. Of course, redshirt junior. And she split some time as that second middle with Taylor Harvey. She was second in blocks and fifth in kills for the team though.
Yeah, the race between these two is going to be good.
Taylor Harvey, like I just said, she's back as a sophomore. She was on that all SEC freshman team. And then she was also on that U21 USA team. Anya Kuzunjic is a libero in DS. She's returning for her senior season. Addie Guido is an outside for the team. Sophomore season now. Callie Kruger, libero/DS, sophomore now.
That's still a lot of returning players, even with this big freshman class.
And then overall for this team, I think they're definitely still a team that is contending for a national championship. With a largely returning roster, you are bringing back your top 3 scorers. You feel really confident while still having your setter that ran that offense. Well, both of them, honestly. And being led by Tori Stafford. I think she really came into her own last year as a leader. Doing it on the court and then off the court, you could tell everyone was confident having her kind of help lead that team. Definitely a lot of really good young talent with that sophomore class now, playing really, really well.
This sophomore class is dangerous, and if they all take this big step up that they could definitely do, oh my gosh, Texas isn't going to see themselves as the number 1 or fighting for that number 1 with Nebraska.
And I do think that this freshman class as well can really make some big moves if they end up playing really well, like we probably expect them to with the caliber of players that they are. Henley Anderson and Genevieve Harris can definitely make some big moves. We'll just have to see because it's hard to beat out that experience moving up to college, but there are some really great talented players.
And speaking of players fighting for positions, let's get right into that starting seven. Who's going to be your starting seven for this Texas team?
For me, for the setter, I have to still go Ella Swindle. You've seen her still captain that court as the runner of the offense. She's done a really good job, especially last year. And it's the same hitters pretty much, so definitely makes it easier to kind of transition to a new year, and it's not that different with at least your pin hitters. I do think Rella Binney can definitely compete for that, but low-key, Genevieve Harris has a chance to steal it. I'm not saying that it will happen, but I think in the talent that she has an opportunity to.
I'll say Ella Swindle at least has the advantage on that block.
Yes, one of the most physical setters that's out there. Tori Stafford is an absolute lock on that outside. I mean, you just know she's the captain for that team. She's doing everything. Passing, defense, and then offensively, she's unstoppable. She was like the most efficient player on that team. And then on the other outside, I do still have Abby Vanderwall. I think it's enough to be said how well she played last year. And that was, again, just only her freshman season. I think we can fairly expect that she's going to improve even more and play even better. But I do think Henley Anderson does have something to say about it. She has the chance. Maybe she can make a move on that starting spot. I'm not too sure. We'll just have to see.
Yeah, these two are definitely going to have to push each other.
Yeah, but for now, I'll still go with Abby Vanderwall. For the middles, I'm going to say Nia Bunton and Taylor Harvey. Without Aiden Ames now, I think those two slot fairly easily into that starting spot. I do think Mackenzie Collins is a very fun pick to have. Maybe she can play in some situations. I think Camille Presley, we'll just have to see as a freshman middle. I feel like that's kind of hard, but she is a very talented middle, so maybe she has some playing time as well. Right sides, I think it's pretty easy to say Kari Spears is going to be there again.
Shocker.
I think there is some really good pins. Maybe they kind of alter the pins around a little bit, but Kari Spears was amazing last year. One of the best on the right side over there. Makes sense. And then the libero to me is Ramsey Gary. I think that's pretty natural. She was pretty much playing that libero spot just without the jersey last year, with Emma Halter still being there, and she is so great. But Ramsey Gary can definitely do it as well.
Yeah, the end of this list was a little easy. But now let's move straight on to Stanford. This is another big one where they lost one of their best players just like Wisconsin, but they also are returning so many players.
Yeah. This team actually lost to Wisconsin in that round of 16. That was the third round, but it was a very, very good team, and they're returning back in that number 5 spot for that preseason poll. Of course, you mentioned it. Elia Rubin was that graduate that, of course, is really tough to lose. She was a first-team All-American, National Player of the Year semifinalist, All-ACC first team, of course. And we found out, everyone was wondering, what is she doing? Is she playing pro, or is she going to just do something else? Because she does go to Stanford. She's very smart, of course. That's pretty much a given. But we found out, she was just staying for the semester to finish out her spring semester. And now she is going to play in Japan in the SV League for one of those teams. And it's going to be really, really fun to watch.
Very appropriate with the level of passer that she was.
Yes, I think she'll fit right in. And I'm so excited. I was a big Elia Rubin fan. I'm definitely going to be rooting for her over there. And they also lost to graduation Anna Pringle. She was libero DS. Didn't play too much, but again, another senior that is definitely valuable. Then there are 3 transfers, either in and out. Reese Dunkel, she transferred out, going to Boston College. She was a sophomore, middle blocker. And then Logan Tusher was a setter. She's a junior. She played beach in the spring, and I just don't think she's with the indoor program anymore. I'm not too sure on that one. And then Lily Wagner is the transfer in. She's a setter, redshirt sophomore from Maryland. So very interesting to see, because I think we've kind of heard that Stanford is famously really hard to get into for athletics to transfer into, just because of the academics are also very, very hard to get into. And most of their athletics are very good programs as well. So it's definitely a difficult transfer in.
Yeah, shout out to her. She's got to be pretty smart.
Yeah, she was going crazy academically.
Yeah.
And it's a very good freshman class as well. Sarah Hickman is a right side. She's the lefty. She was on the USA National Team Development Program. Under Armour next All-American. She's prep volleyball number 6 rank, and she's super, super physical. She's 6'5". She can hit really hard, out of system, in system. Definitely excited to see what she can do. We'll see if she's going to get some starting play.
We love our tall lefties on the right side.
Joy Uduye is a outside. She was also with the National Team Development Program in 2023. And she also won the national championship for USAV back in her club days. So definitely was playing really well back then. Ella Andrews is a very physical middle. She's 6'4", on the National Team Development Program as well for the U.S., and Under Armour All-American in 2025.
They can't keep getting away with all these tall and smart players.
Yeah. Simone Roslin is an outside. She's a little bit undersized at 5'11", and she's also a national team development program. She's a very good passer and defender, according to Kevin Hambley, and she's able to make up for that height with a lot of skill and some power as well.
That seems like the archetype of player that could fit in very well with this Stanford team, at least as an outside.
But the real important part is that they're returning a lot of their roster from last year. Starting off with Julia Blyshov. She, I think, is going to be making a big upwards trajectory in her career. She's going to be looked at to do a lot more production-wise. Of course, she was one of the outsides. Redshirt junior now, All-ACC second team, preseason All-ACC. And I really do think she's going to take a bigger role offensively now that Ellie Rubin is gone. She was 4th in kills.
Yeah, someone's got to make up for all that production, so hopefully it's her.
Yeah, and she had a lot of really great moments, especially late in the season and in the postseason. So definitely looking forward to seeing her play more. Jordan Harvey was the right side for the team. She's a senior now. She was also All-ACC second team in that preseason All-ACC as well. She was 3rd in kills, and I do think she's also going to have to kind of produce a little bit more in a more expanded role, more swings, now with Ellie Rubin being gone.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see her do a lot better, especially since they decided to settle on actually playing a right side instead of doing the weird 6-2 thing with Logan Parks and Taylor Yu that they started the season off with last year.
Yeah, they definitely found their groove with that 5-1 a little bit later.
Yeah.
Ipar Kurt is still back here. I also feel like she's been playing for a long time, but I really think it's because her freshman year she was playing really well. She's a redshirt junior now. She didn't play too much last year, but I think some of that was also due to injury. I think she can definitely burst onto the scene, play really well offensively for sure. Again, without Ellie Rubin.
I think she did sub in a couple times and had her moments, so I'm expecting good things.
Yeah, I think she definitely can still play a really productive role. Logan Parks, like we were just mentioning with that right side setter thing, she's still, of course, the setter for that team in that 5-1. A lot of the time, she's a sophomore now. She's All-American honorable mention, All-ACC second team, All-ACC freshman team. She's also on that preseason All-ACC and National Player of the Year watch list. I do think that they are excited to see another young setter kind of take off, especially in that Stanford role. Definitely kind of falling after Cami Minor. Going to be very exciting.
Speaking of other really good setters that were good in college, I know we started to kind of compare her to Moni Nikolov being that offensive-minded setter. I'm hoping we can see a little bit of that this year. That'd be kind of hype.
Yeah, I think she had like 70 kills last year, which is it's still a good amount for a setter, so that's really cool. The other setter for that 6-2 was Taylor Yu. She's returning as a junior, and again, like I said, she was in that 6-2, and she played in that 5-1, especially when Logan Parks was injured.
Yeah, also very impressive herself.
Yeah, she definitely was able to run the offense still very confidently, and that team was still doing really well with her. Lizzie Andrew was the middle. She's a junior now. Was a second team All-American as well. All-ACC first team easily. Now on that preseason All-ACC. And again, National Player of the Year watch list as well. For a middle.
Yeah, definitely showed out a lot last year. I feel like I underestimated her a lot. Even when she was starting to do really well, I was like, oh, watch out, she's going to fall back to the mean. But she just kept getting better and better.
Yeah, and it shows in her stats too. She was 2nd in kills on the team and 2nd in blocks. That's a middle right there. That's insane. Erica Sayre was right there with her, though. She was a freshman last year, so sophomore now. She was on that All-ACC second team. Of course, was on that ACC freshman team. She was 3rd in kills and 1st in blocks for the team.
Yeah, she's super mobile, and she's just able to build a lot of chemistry with both setters, which I found very impressive.
One of the other freshmen from last year is Spencer Etzler. She was the libero for that team, and she was also on that All-ACC first team and the All-ACC freshman team, of course, and she was also named to that preseason All-ACC.
Yeah, I think she's one of those players where we're seeing so much of her kind of in the USA gym right now that I think she's going to be showing out with all the training that she got this summer.
Yeah, and I guess a lot of my favorite players are liberos. I kind of think about it now. But she really is a really fun libero to watch. She's making a lot of the sound plays where you don't notice her as much, but she does also make a lot of flashy digs as well. So she's always a really good presence for that team.
These Stanford liberos, man.
Sydney Duncan, she didn't play too much last year. She was a junior now. Zaria Queen is right side. She's a sophomore now. Casey DeMaria is a redshirt freshman. We'll have to see how she's going to end up doing. Coco Kirsch, libero DS, redshirt junior now, and Melissa Kawa, libero/DS, and she's a junior.
Yeah, a lot of players who didn't have too much impact, but I'm sure there's always going to be roles, especially for this still young team that needs to figure out its way.
Yeah, definitely. And for the team as a whole, you're missing a huge part in Ellie Rubin. Really was one of the best players in the nation last year. And you kind of have to figure out how can this team step up. And I think it's going to be collectively. I don't think it's going to be one player that's going to shoot up and do insane things. I think it's going to be a collective because that's kind of the pedigree of Stanford. They're always a very, very good team, and they don't need to always have one star. I think they'll definitely be able to step up, and we'll just have to see if maybe one of the starters does make that next leap.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot of production missed in every aspect of the game because Elia Rubin was one of the best 6 rotation outsides in the game.
I do think, though, that they are still a favorite in the ACC. It's going to be tough with Pitt as well, but I really do think the Stanford team can definitely contend. I think once they figure things out, like they did last year, kind of getting their groove later in the season, even if they don't have their bona fide star in Elia Rubin from last year.
Yeah, we might see another slow start, but let's see how they're going to figure out by giving our starting 7 here. So who's going to be your starting 7 for Stanford?
For the setter, I think it's pretty easy for me to say Logan Parks. Really one of the best young setters right now. And on the outside, Julia Blyshov, to me, is an absolute lock. And I'm going to roll with it, Park Hurt. I think a Park Hurt is going to come back, and she's going to be healthy and ready to go, and she'll kind of have that bounce-back season.
A lot of returning players.
I think the middles are super easy. It's an absolute lock to me. Lizzie Andrew was one of the best middles in the nation. I think she very much went underrated just because there were a lot of really good middles out there. She was super sound and super consistent. And then I think Erica Sayre was really able to carve out a position for her. Even though she was a freshman as well, she played really, really good ball. These are really one of the best middle duos out there.
And they're only going to get better.
Jordan Harvey, to me, is the right side. She was doing really well last year. Second in kills. I think she's going to keep doing the same.
She might be one of the best offensive weapons for this team this year.
And then the libero rounds it out. Spencer Etzler again. Like I said, she's one of the better liberos right now. And even though she's in her second season, I think she's going to be even better.
A lot of the same starting players, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of why they're going to be really good. They have a lot of continuity here.
Yep. But let's move it on to Louisville, where they were a team where they actually did push Texas A&M, I think, pretty hard compared to every other team that they played, honestly.
Besides Nebraska, I guess.
Yeah, besides Nebraska. But even then, I think Louisville might have even taken them to a couple extra points in a couple of the sets. But they will always be a contender, even though they lost some of their major players. Let's start it off with the graduates. Kara Cressy, middle blocker, one of the best middles in the nation, if not the best. She moved on to play for the Indy Ignite and is going to do the same thing this year. She was an All-American third team last year, and she was honorable mention for the year before that. And she was one of the top scorers as a middle. You know they love to run her on that slide regularly in the middle, ones, twos. They're going to miss a lot of her production this year.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely saw that there was a goal to set her a certain amount during the season and during each match, so they definitely relied on her offensively, but she was also one of the best blockers.
And another graduate is Molly Wilson, who was the backup/dub sub setter, where I think this is kind of important for Louisville, where they really did like to run some of that 6-2 in very impactful moments, so the loss of her is actually a role that needs to be fulfilled. And then on to the transfers. First off, we have Ava Utterback, who's an outside and a redshirt sophomore/junior. She moved on to play at UCLA. She played off the bench, but didn't really get too many opportunities because of the stacked roster that Louisville already had. Then we have Reese Robbins, who transferred to TCU. She's a senior now. She's a right side. And I think she was pretty clutch also as part of that 6-2 switch. But it sucks to see her move on, especially because I feel like she was a little bit of a fan favorite for this Louisville team.
Yeah, she was definitely part of those teams that did really, really well in those kind of 2022, 23 Louisville teams. And she was kind of one of those remnants, and she was really good for them back then. She's still a really good player, but going to TCU now.
Yeah, she even had a clutch moment during the national tournament, I believe, last year. So yeah, sucks to see her go. Then for our last transfer out, we have Alana Bankston, who is an outside hitter, who went to Michigan State. She's a senior now. She didn't really play too much last year, so I'm sure she's just looking for more playing time. And then for the transfers in, we only have one. It's Brooke Bultema, like you mentioned earlier, from Kentucky. She's a middle blocker, a senior, and she was kind of rotation/off the bench, but I think she was a good participant on this championship match level team, so she's going to do great things for Louisville.
Yeah, definitely trying to keep up the pedigree of really good middle blockers that Louisville has had recently, especially with Kara Cressy leaving.
But moving on to the freshmen coming in, we do have a decent amount of them. Let's kick it off with Blair Theobald, who's a setter, who's Prep Dig's number 22 ranked player overall and the number 3 setter. She played on the USA U21 national team this summer, and from what I've heard, she's looking like a pretty good setter prospect for this team.
And with Nielis Cabello, she is still only a junior, so she still has this year and the year after as a senior, but you do got to prep for the future, and this is a really great pick. Just to have a setter that you can rely on.
Like I mentioned, we do need a 6-2 setter for this team, so she's going to be right there, I think. Next up, we have Elsie Karjanlahti, who's a libero/DS from Finland, where she's already played pro for the past 2 years, And last year especially, she was actually playing at a very good level, so it's fun to see her on this team. Then we have Ellie Strecker, who's a 6'4" middle blocker, Prep Digs recruit number 56. Amira Bailey, who's also a middle blocker, but also an opposite, who is 6'5", and she's the Prep Digs recruit 160. And then rounding it out, we have Jordan Gray, who's a 6'1" outside hitter. I don't really know too much about her, and I don't know if she's going to get too much play time, but I think she got brought onto the roster because of her potential. Now on to the returners. We do have a lot of good players here. Let's kick it off with Chloe Chacoin, who was the outside hitter last year, one of the best all-around outside hitters in NCAA. She's on the AVCA and National Player of the Year watch list this year, and she was an All-American honorable mention last year.
Yeah, I really like watching her play. She really can do pretty much everything that you need. And it's very interesting that they would sometimes actually have the libero play in 6 and she was playing in 5, but you'd see her make some digs. I'm like, she could be a libero in her other life. If she wanted to, she definitely could do it.
She is a little bit undersized, so maybe one day after this, she is a senior, so we'll see.
But man, she really makes up for being a little undersized, for being so athletic. She jumps so well, and she's so skilled too. So definitely one of the most fun outsides for me.
Moving on, we have Naelis Cabello, like you mentioned. She's the returning setter, only a junior. She's on the 2026 AVCA National Player of the Year watch list, and she was the starting setter last year and one of the most impressive in the NCAA in general. I think she was also one of the most aggressive setters.
For sure.
She really started to feel herself dumping the ball, maybe a little bit too much at times, but she scored quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, being super aggressive. I think there were times that it felt like it might have been a little too much, but I feel like sometimes you only think that because it failed, but she was so aggressive and she would do it a lot where you do score a lot and you are efficient at it. I think it definitely warrants it.
And she also is the captain of this team. She was last year as well, and I think you can see her leadership just on the court. But moving on, next we have Peyton Peterson, outside hitter. She's a junior. She is one of my sleeper picks to be really, really good in the NCAA because she looked so amazing with the USA U21 national team this summer. She was absolutely a standout for that team, in my opinion. And I mean, last year I already think she was doing pretty well, but I think she's really going to bring it this year.
Yeah, I think there were times that Louisville had struggles to find their offensive rhythm sometimes, but she was able to find ways to score in those out-of-system moments, and she was definitely really fun. I'm always going to remember that. Peyton Peterson, who are you? In those moments 2 years ago, that was so fun, but now she's a junior, and it's insane to think about, but she is a really good player too.
She's just got that clutch gene in her. But on to the next player, we have Camden Strand, who was the libero last year. She's a senior now, and she did earn that libero spot for the first time last year. Yeah, it could still be in contention, but she really did show out on the defensive end last year, and she has one of the best serves on the team. Then we had a big standout. We have Kalissa Blackshear, who's playing on the right side for this team. She was just a freshman last year.
Yeah, and she was slotted as a middle, though.
Yeah, but she ended up dominating on that right side. She did run some plays where she does hit from the middle, hit 2 balls from the middle, and it worked a lot of the time, so I'm only expecting her role to grow this upcoming year, especially because she was the ACC Freshman of the Year last year.
Yeah, of course she was a middle initially, so she's not going to be playing much of that back row, but Louisville luckily has a lot of really great DSs and liberos, so they're definitely able to figure that out. But she really was really dominant last year. It's going to be exciting to see what she can do in her second year.
And another surprise player from last year, we have Hannah Sherman, middle blocker. She's back for her 5th year, and she was the second middle last year for the team, of course, behind Kara Cressy. But she did a lot of really impressive things. She was, again, one of my really big sleeper picks in terms of just best middles in the nation, where I think she just stepped up her game in so many ways that it just ended up getting overshadowed by the fact that Kara Cressy is Kara Cressy.
Yeah, and there's so many really great names on this team that play really well, so it feels like sometimes she slept on, but she definitely has a chance to put her name out there even more without Kara Cressy, and I think she will.
Then moving on, we have Hannah Kenny, who was one of the main DSs last year. She did end up taking on that main DS role because we had Camden Strand moving to libero. So I think that role is pretty much going to stay the same this year. She's going to be very important, especially maybe on that right side, like you mentioned. But moving on, we also have Molly Urban, who's a libero/DS. She's a senior now. She was another really good serving sub/DS. I think could come in for like one of the middles for serve. So then we have Addison McCoon, middle blocker, who's a sophomore now. She didn't play too much last year, but when she did get to play, She looked like a pretty good blocker. They didn't run too much offense for her, so we'll see how that evolves.
Yeah.
Then we have Jessica Drapp, a libero/DS who's a senior. She didn't really play. She played in 7 sets total, so not expecting too much. And then we have Chloe Meester, who redshirted last year, and she's an outside hitter who's now a sophomore under this 5-for-5 rule. So I'm expecting to see her kind of do something. I think last year might have been for injury, so we could see some big things from her. And then on to overall thoughts for this team. Of course, they are missing a big player and a lot of production in Kara Cressy, but there's a lot of potential bright spots on this team. A lot of players who can step up their game from last year who were already playing at high levels. So I think that's what really makes them a dangerous team, even though they're missing one of the best middle blockers in the nation.
Yeah. To me, they are a team that you do have a lot of questions about just because of that missing of Kara Cressy, but I'm not questioning that they're going to be good just because I know the caliber of players that they have, and it's a lot of returning players. I'm just interested to see just how that looks because so much of that identity was Kara Cressy being so well on the block, and of course how dominant she was offensively.
I also think a big thing is that they had to kind of figure out the identity last year, and hopefully a lot of that will carry over into this year.
But now we have to find out who's your starting 7 for Louisville.
So in the setter position, I think it's pretty easy to say that Nayelis Cabello is going to take that spot, especially as one of the captains for this team. The leadership is invaluable. But we could also see Blair Theobald come in as that 6-2 setting option. For the outsides, of course, we're going to have Chloe Chacoin and Peyton Peterson, where maybe we could see some Chloe Meester. I know she looked pretty good in those spring games, but I do feel like the passing and defense of Chloe Chacoin and Peyton Peterson together was one of the best in the nation last year.
Yeah, they were really fun to watch as an outside duo, so looking forward to it again.
Then for the middles, we're going to have Hannah Sherman and Brooke Bultema. I think that's very easy. With Hannah Sherman being a starter from last season who really proved herself, and Brooke Bultema coming in, looking for a starting spot. And honestly, to me, she was deserving of a lot of playtime, more than she got on that Kentucky team. And then for the right side, we're looking to see Calissa Blackshear come back again, look even better, become an even more dominant offensive force, and hopefully maybe play a little bit in the back row.
We'll have to see. They do have the personnel to be able to not do it and have a DS, but hey, if she's digging and she's playing really good defense, maybe she will.
I just want to see the offense from the back row a little bit.
Oh yeah, that'd be sick.
But then for the libero, it's either going to be Camden Schrand, who would return for her libero position, or it's going to be Elsie Karjanlahti from Finland. I'm going to lean towards Camden Schrand just because of the experience, and you never know how some of the international players will make that adjustment into NCAA. All right, and then next we have a very fun team to cover because of what happened last year. We got Penn State, a team that you really like. That's why you're laughing. But the Izzy Stark situation is very near and dear to our hearts because we drafted her with our first pick in our Creator Fantasy League last year, and it screwed us so bad.
It's okay, though. We forgive you. You ball at Pitt, we're okay.
We could even pick you this year, honestly.
Hey, don't give out the strategy.
But back to this Penn State team in general, they did lose to Texas in the round of 32/second round during the national tournament. I don't think that was a surprise to anyone. When we saw the brackets come out, we knew it was going to be tough for them. But they have managed to work themselves up to number 10 in the AVCA preseason poll. And that is because they have a lot of good things going for them that we'll see in a second. But first, let's talk about the graduates. First of all, we have Jillian Grimes, who graduated. She then played in League One Madison, then League One Houston, starting lib, and one of the best libs in NCAA last year.
Yeah, she was really good. It's tough to see her go, but it was just all a weird season last year. It felt like her senior season felt kind of overlooked, even though the team was still pretty solid. It's just it didn't live up to what they were the year before, winning that national championship and having Kennedy Martin come in. But Jillian Grimes still. Shout-outs to her. She was amazing.
Then next we have Maggie Mendelson, the dual sport athlete herself, a basketball player who now is moving on to play basketball for Pepperdine. She was a middle blocker for this team, and she was like the offensive middle blocker, so it sucks to see her go.
And she played with Atlanta 5 during the MLB season.
Yeah, for like a half season for some reason.
And now she's going back to play basketball. Hey, man. You do you. That's sick. That's so cool.
She's just balling out in a ton of different ways. But next we have Jordan Hopp, who was one of the main middles for Penn State last year and probably their best blocker. So that's just both of the starting middle blockers for Penn State leaving, which is going to be tough. Next, we have Addie Lyon, who had to take over that starting setter spot at the beginning of the season. And I think maybe she wasn't fully ready for that. I don't think the team was fully ready for that. So that's why Penn State had a little bit of trouble. She did step it up last year, ended up being a really good setter for the team, but it was at the very end of the season. And
they definitely hit their groove at the end of the season, but it was rough at the beginning trying to just adjust.
It was rough at the beginning and the middle and some of the end, honestly.
They still made it to the second round though, despite all that.
Yeah, they did good. But then our last graduate is Kate Lally, who was a DS/libero, and she didn't really play too much, but I think it was more like a culture thing. Then transferring out, we have Catherine Burke, another one of the middle blockers, who is a redshirt junior/senior. She moved on to play at Wake Forest, and she didn't really play too much anyways, but who knows? She could have gotten a little bit more playtime here, but then we have Karis Willow, who is an outside hitter, senior, who went to Rutgers. She didn't really play for Penn State either. And then Marin Collins, another outside, who went to Georgia and was just injured last year, took a redshirt year, so I don't know if we had any opinions to begin with. But now on to the big moves where they brought players in. This is a big one. They brought in Alexis Stuckey from Florida. This is Kennedy Martin's old teammate. I know they have a very good friendship and relationship on the court. So this is a big move. She's one of the best technical setters in NCAA, just hampered by injuries year after year. So we'll see how she does this year.
Yeah, I think she definitely gets underrated just because of the injuries and that there is a lot of really great setting talent right now in the NCAA. But she really is a fantastic setter, and it's going to be really cool to watch her in this Penn State program and see her run that offense. Again, linking up with Kennedy Martin is going to be really fun.
I think she has some of the best pure hands in NCAA right now. But on to the next player. We have Ryla Jones coming in from Pitt. She's a middle blocker, now in her junior season. Like I mentioned for Pitt, she was a little bit underutilized just on that team. They didn't really use their middles too much, and she's looking to get some good play time in for Penn State here. Then another big move, we have Whitney Lonstein, the outside hitter/right side grad student. She played 2 seasons at Nebraska, then 2 seasons at Texas. She did take a medical red shirt in between for pregnancy, and that Texas time she faced a lot of injuries and also, of course, having her kid, but I think when she was playing her best in Nebraska, she looked really, really good, and I think she's going to bring it for this Penn State team.
Yeah, this is a really, really good transfer class to bring in. I mean, it's stacked, star-studded. Now we just have to see how they fit on that Penn State team.
But they also have a good freshman class coming in with them with these transfers. First off, we have Danielle Whitmere, who's a setter, 6'2". She was the number 4 recruit by Prep Digs, and she was on the 2025 Girls U19 National Team USA. Unfortunately, she is coming off of an ACL injury. I don't know if she's going to be ready to start the season. I think that's still unclear right now, so we'll have to see what happens, but at least she's able to get maybe a little bit of guidance from Alexis Stuckey just on the dealing with injuries aspect.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a setter to learn from.
Then we have Kendall Northern, a middle blocker who is Prep Digs' number 13 overall recruit. She was the Ohio Gatorade Player of the Year, and she is super, super athletic. I saw some video where supposedly she was touching really, really high, over 10 feet. I think it was 10-8, maybe 10-9, something like that. So
crazy work.
That's as a high schooler, so very, very good. Then we have Finley Kristoviak, another outside hitter who is the number 10 overall recruit for the class of 2026 by Prep Dig, and Haley Bergdorf, another outside hitter who was the number 39 overall recruit by Prep Dig.
Yeah, this is, like you mentioned, really a strong freshman class that maybe won't have to come in and do a lot of big things right away because of the seniors and the older players that they have. But it's really good to have that underclassman and that freshman class that is definitely ready to take the reins.
Yeah, and the opportunity is there if they're able to grasp it, if they're able to adjust fast enough. But let's go on to the players where they have to take time from, starting off with Kennedy Martin, who no one is going to take time from on the right side. She's a senior now. She's on the 2026 AVCA National Player of the Year watch list. She's a 3-time All-American. The past 2 years, she was on the first team. Year before that, she was on the second team. And she was literally the entire Penn State offense last year. She is always going to be a National Player of the Year candidate, despite the poor performance that they had last year, which was so impressive.
Yeah, I mean, she really played so well for them offensively. She was doing everything. And hey, she would play some good defense here and there too, and she would make a lot of great plays. But offensively, I think we're just looking to see, can she evolve her game even more? She's been playing really amazing offensively, but is there a second gear? If there is, maybe that's National Player of the Year. Who knows?
She did play a little bit better defense than expected last year, so let's see if that steps up again. But on to the next player, we have Emmy Selman, the main outside hitter from last year. She's going into her junior season, and for her, I think she started the season a little bit shaky, and things slowly started to get a little better, but wasn't fully reliable. We're hoping to see some better things this year, maybe especially on that serve reception side.
Yeah, I think it was an adjustment period for her, especially initially. But we'll have to see. Maybe she can build a really good connection with Alexis Stuckey. And then just being more comfortable now at Penn State after Ohio State. But we'll just have to see. I think she can definitely grow more.
Then we have one of the other outside hitters. We have Caroline Juravicius, who was also playing right side during that national championship run. But she played outside last year, not really an outside, so there was some passing issues for her as well. She kind of lost that starter spot in certain situations, but doesn't really matter because this year she is starting off on the injured list. Well, I don't really know what happened, but she hasn't really been practicing or playing with the team as far as I know. So we'll wait and see what happens when she comes back. Maybe she can come back and be right side again or just a front row offensive outside. Then we have Ava Faldudo, a libero/DS, who was the main DS last year. I think she's going to be moving on to that libero spot this year that she definitely earned. But yeah, I think she's also one of the leaders of this team, so I'm expecting good things from her.
Yeah, and it definitely helps having played a lot during those seasons with Jillian Grimes, and she already has that on-court experience, so I think she's definitely ready for the role.
Moving on, we have Alexis Ewing, who's an outside hitter last year, but also a right side. She's now moving into her sophomore year. She was tested out as the outside, but I think some of these fall and summer scrimmages, she has been playing on the right side for the double substitution if needed. So I think that's maybe where we're going to see her role. Then for Gabrielle Nichols, she is a returning middle blocker. She's a sophomore now. She was that third middle in that depth chart where now I think she's going to step up, probably be one of these starters for sure. Then we have Jocelyn Nathan, one of the liberos/defensive specialists. She's a senior now, and she was legitimately playing as a defensive specialist. They needed that for Penn State last year. She played in over 100 sets. She's probably going to do the same thing again. Then we have Lexi Jin, another libero DS. She's a sophomore now. She was a little bit more of a serve sub coming in for the middles to serve for them. And of course, playing that libero spot while the libero has to be out. And then we have Ava Juravicius, Caroline Juravicius' sister, to round it out. Another libero DS. Again, she played more of that serve sub role for the middles. So we could see her again in that spot, but I don't know if we're going to see too much of her. Now for the overall thoughts about Penn State. It is a very much revamped roster. I think they've upgraded in a couple different positions, but we still have to go into the season with a lot of the same questions because they did not end the season last year on the highest of notes and didn't really have any of the questions answered. So a lot of things we're going to have to see and feel out for this Penn State team. Honestly, their ranking even might be too high to begin this preseason.
Yeah, this to me is a real wild card for me. I think this team can end up coming out of the gate playing really well, or it could also be a lot more rocky, kind of what we noticed last year. I do think it's going to be starting off just better with Alexis Stuckey and Kennedy Martin out there. This team is going to look just more comfortable now going in, having that full preseason that they're ready for. I do have a lot of questions. I'm not too sure how well this team is going to end up playing, but they do have a really high ceiling though. After talking about that and maybe who's going to be starting for that team, we got to find out the starting seven. Who do you have for your starting seven for the Penn State Nittany Lions?
To start off the season, it's very easy to pick Alexis Stuckey as Danielle Whitmire is injured. So yeah, Alexis Stuckey has to be that starter. I think she's going to primarily be that starter, but no other option right now. Then for the outsides, I think we're going to see Whitney Lonstein take that spot to begin the season, especially because we need an outside who can pass a little bit, and I think she's going to fill that role. Then the other outside, we're probably going to see Emmy Selman, but I wouldn't be surprised if any of the freshmen came in and impressed Coach Katie Schumacher-Cawley and ended up taking one of those outside spots.
Yeah, I think the outside spot is really going to determine how great of the team it can be. But Whitney Lonstein and Emmy Selman, or whoever they end up picking for that outside spot, can definitely help out, and I think they can be really good.
And then for the middles, I have Ryla Jones, Gabrielle Nichols, and then maybe Kendall Northern stepping in there as the freshman, where I think she's been impressing a lot, especially in those spring games and all of the scrimmages/practices that they've had. So I think she could end up taking one of those spots as well.
Yeah, it's a tough call for the middle core here for the Penn State team. I'm not really sure, but I think you got the good picks out here.
Yeah, I do want to pencil in Ryla Jones as my true pick because I think she is a standout from Pitt. She just didn't get the proper opportunity. For the right side, it's very easy. We have Kennedy Martin. No questions here. She's one of the best right sides in NCAA.
Yeah, I mean, she's going to do some amazing things in her senior season. I'm very excited to see how she's going to end up playing.
And then for the libero, we have Ava Faldudo, who was the primary DS last year, and she's just stepping up, moving into that spot of the libero. I don't even think the handoff will be too difficult.
Yeah, Ava Faldudo was balling when she was still playing as a DS. I think she can definitely pick it up as libero.
But now we can move on to our final team here. We know it's been a long one, but let's get through it all. We got SMU here, who is number 11 in the ABCA preseason poll. They did lose to Purdue in the round of 16/3rd round during the national tournament, and they did lose a bunch of really good players, as they tend to do when they just bring in so many transfers.
Yeah. I mean, they had an amazing go last year. That team looked really, really good. But you do have to retool, and retool they did.
Yep, they are the blueprint of losing and bringing in different players from different teams. So starting off with the graduates, we have Malaya Jones, who's a right side who ended up playing for the Dallas Pulse and is moving to League One Madison. She was the offensive weapon for SMU last year. She was a reliable and terminal, so she's going to be tough to replace.
Yeah, and she was so physical as a right side over there. I mean, the power and her jumping ability, super skilled, so it's going to be tough to replace that.
Then we have Avery Carlson, the setter for this team last year. She ended up playing on the Atlanta Vibe and is moving on to the Columbus Fury. She was just generally one of the best setters in NCAA last year, so again, another really difficult player to replace.
Yeah, I mean, she ran a very balanced offense, and she's able to get her hitters into their sweet spots and playing really well in rhythm. So, again, another really difficult position to replace here.
Then they lost their starting libero in Jordan Schilling, who was actually showing out to be one of the best liberos in the nation by the end of the season. They also lost Madison Shear, an outside hitter who was part of that revolving door of outsides. She was pretty solid offensively. Defensively and passing, I guess, was the more difficult part. They lost Casey Batenhorst, who was a backup setter / serving sub. Then Gentry Lamarand, who was an outside / DS, but was more of a DS.
That's a lot of graduating athletes, and a lot of them played a lot. So it's going to be difficult, again, to try and replace that.
And we are not done with players lost yet because they had a bunch of transfers out as well. They lost Kennedy Rogers, who's an outside hitter. She went to Tennessee. She's a sophomore now, and she was, again, part of that revolving door of outsides, but I think she felt like she had some really big games throughout the season, so it's tough to see her go.
Yeah, I mean, talk about power and being so aggressive and offensively. She was doing really great things, and, hopefully she does really well at Tennessee, but for SMU's point of view, it definitely hurts.
They also lost a really good middle blocker in Maggie Croft, who's a sophomore now. She went to Rice. She wasn't utilized too much, but when she did get to play, I think she was a really good blocker, and she had a really good serve too, so I'm surprised that it's another player that they lost, but that just might be how SMU operates. And then finally, they also lost Amelia Hansen, an outside hitter who redshirted last year, so don't really know too much. She went to Boise State. Now, for the players that transferred in, we got some big names here to help make up for those big losses. First off, we have Sully Davis, who is an outside hitter who played at BYU last year. She's a sophomore, and she was BYU's best scorer over Claire Little Chambers, who was one of the best outsides in the nation before that. So that was very impressive by Sully Davis. She is on the ABCA National Player of the Year watch list, and she was a second-team All-American last year.
Yeah, I mean, she was fantastic for BYU. Definitely one of the reasons why that BYU team looked so good, and doing that as a freshman was so impressive. Really excited to see how she does at SMU. I think she can really pop off here, maybe even in a way that we didn't really see before, having been able to kind of expand her game even more now.
Adding on to the stacked transferring class, we have Victoria Harris, the libero from South Carolina last year. She's a junior now and was one of the best liberos in the SEC, so big addition for SMU. Then we have Gabby Placide, who's a right side. She's a senior from Ole Miss last year and Northern Colorado the 2 years before that. She's always a leading scorer for every team that she's bid on. She's also super efficient, and she's the player who I think is probably going to take on that Malaya Jones role. Then we have Ellie Moore, who's a redshirt sophomore / junior setter. She played the past 2 years at Kansas, but didn't really get to play too much last year. Then we have a couple of freshmen. First off, we have Elle Vanderway, who's a middle blocker that's 6'5", 5. She's a 3-time Under Armour Next All-American. She was ranked 29 in the state of California for her class. Then we have Lavaria Pinder, who's a pin hitter in general, an AVCA All-Region Outside Hitter as a senior for high school. And she also played club for the Dallas Skyline, another one of those big clubs in Texas. Then Victoria Shoup is a libero/DS who was an AVCA Phenom watch list for 22 and 23, and she played for Houston Skyline.
Yeah, it's a lot of players from that whole Texas area, so that's really cool to see that they're bringing in local talent.
But they still have a lot of really good returning players, kicking it off with Favor Anyanwu, the middle blocker. She's a junior now, and she is on the AVCA National Player of the Year watch list. She is one of the top scorers from the team last year as a middle, and she was the best blocker on the team, who was very efficient offensively and defensively.
Yeah, really fun to watch. I mean, she was such a physical and dominant middle blocker that, again, I feel like can go underrated sometimes just with all the other big name middles, but she really can do some really great things, and she's only a junior.
Then we have Jaden Livings, the outside hitter/opposite. She's a junior now. She was the second top scorer on the team last year, even missing a whole month during the season. She still ended up one of the top scorers, so you already know she's going to do big things this year. She did hurt her ACL, so we're going to see how she comes into the season. Hopefully, she doesn't push herself. I don't think she needs to come in too early, but by the end of the season, she could come in and be an absolute weapon for this team.
Yeah, and this is the other part of that duo that came over from USC. I'm so excited to see her back if she comes back healthy, whenever that is. But I'm ready, and I'm really happy and excited to see her play again because she was on fire before she got hurt.
Moving on, we have Natalia Newsome, a middle blocker. She's a junior this year, and she was very efficient on the attacking end. Good blocker, but she did get injured, so we'll see how she continues her season from her injury.
Yes, and she was the famous player that got super popular for her vertical, so you want to see her out there again, jumping as high as she did.
Absolutely. Next, we have Krista Wilburn, who's an outside hitter who's now a sophomore. She's more of a defensive outside two type of player, but I think she's important to have on the roster that has a lot of firepower already offensively, and she happens to be the best server on the team by far. Moving on, we have Sarah Frazee, libero DS sophomore. She was a very solid DS/reception sub for SMU last year. Mia Silva kind of fulfilled a very similar role. She played a little bit less, only in 21 matches, 56 sets. Brooke Gilmore, one of the middle blockers last year. She's a sophomore now. She played literally one set, so she has no stats. Then Hannah Beauford is a setter who is a redshirt freshman/sophomore. She was the 21st best player in Texas and the 4th best setter by Prep Digs Texas, and she was ranked number 70 in the top 150 national player rankings by Prep Volleyball. So I think we're going to see some really good things out of her. They do need a good setter.
Yeah, and they do have a lot of returning players that you mentioned that are still really, really good for this team. But it is kind of a theme of a lot of injuries that, again, hopefully they're going to be able to come back healthy and play really well, because when they were healthy, this was a very, very good SMU team.
Yeah, SMU, they do a really good job of coming in and bringing players together, having them gel really fast and perform really well very quickly. Something that we don't necessarily see with other teams, so I'm excited to see how this team is able to perform.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've always liked how this program is built and the way that they're coached. They play really well, even though, again, it's a lot of times it's teams that are coming up together that they didn't play a bunch of seasons together, and they still find ways to make it work. And having Sully Davis, to me, that's the superstar that you need for this program. So I'm really excited how this team's going to look. But we have to see that starting 7. So let me know, who's your starting 7 for SMU?
For the setter position, I think it's going to be Hannah Beauford. I think she's coming off an injured redshirt season, but now I think she's going to come back a lot stronger, and she's looked pretty good so far in those spring games.
Yeah, it's a tough position to fill after Avery Carlson. She did such a good job, but coming back healthy, I think she can do well.
And then coming in on the outside, we definitely have Sully Davis, who is going to be one of the best outside hitters in the nation this year. And then we have Krista Wilburn, who's going to probably be the other outside. I think she's going to be that more defensive outside player that you always need on a team. She's going to be there for defense, serve reception, and she's still going to do her thing on the offensive end. For the middles, this is very easy. We have Favor Anyanwu, one of the best middles in the nation, and then Natalia Newsome, who was set up to be one of the best middles in the nation before her injury.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great middle duo to have, and they're returning, so to me that makes it a lot easier. You just got to find that connection with that setter.
And then for the right side, I believe we're going to have Gabby Placide, who performed very well last year for Ole Miss. So I think she's going to do the same thing. She is used to playing high volume and very efficient, so I think she'll be perfect for this team. And then for the libero, of course, we're going to have Victoria Harris, another transfer in who played at South Carolina and was one of the best liberos in the SEC. And that's going to wrap it up for our changes for 10 of the top teams in NCAA women's volleyball. Thank you so much if you made it this far. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Let us know who you guys thought made the biggest changes in the offseason. Not necessarily the best, but maybe just the biggest ones. Or hey, say who you thought made the biggest moves here. And who do you think is going to end up winning this national championship?
Yeah, and also let us know if you want us to cover any more teams, any other big changes that happened in NCAA.
There's a lot of other teams.
Yeah, probably won't be as long as this episode, but just let us know and we'll do our best to cover them. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.